Hello guys and welcome back to Car Obsession. Welcome to another walk around. This week you join me with the latest Kia Sportage. So as always I'll take you around the car, talk you through the specification and give you my initial thoughts. So here we go. The Kia Sportage looking very resplendent in this optional infrared paintwork. I think it looks fantastic. In case you are wondering, this paintwork would cost you £595 as an optional extra. Speaking of price, this is the 2 model, so you've got quite a few different trim levels. You've got 1, 2, Edition 25, 4, GT Line and GT Line S, so quite a few different trim levels to choose from. So I've got the model that's one up from the base model, and it starts from £22,405, but because I've got the optional paint, the car you see right now is £23,000, and I think it is pretty good value. Now let's talk about the design. I think the latest Sportage is a fantastic looking thing. It's a really striking car. I think the front end looks fantastic. Let me come back around. I really like the design of the lights, and one of the biggest changes for the facelift is you now have this chrome strip that runs along the front end of the car. So if you see a Kia Sportage that hasn't got the chrome strip, it's most likely a pre-facelift. But yes, you now get this chrome strip that runs the length of the front bumper, past the number plate, and of course to the other side. And you also get the iconic Kia Tiger Nose grille, which I think looks really good on this car. As standard, you get 17-inch alloys, which I quite like the design. Okay, maybe they look a little bit too small for this car because you have got quite a chunky tyre on there. But overall, I think it is a good looking car. And at the back, you've got rear lights that wrap all the way around like a visor. And I think it is a very smart looking car, definitely one of the best looking in its class, but I know looks and design are and will always be subjective. Now the outside, as I've said, is pretty nice. However, the inside, in my opinion, well, it's a bit boring. Let me take you inside. Apologies that the lighting isn't fantastic because you've got the low winter sun beating down on the car. But you get fabric seats as standard. Apologies guys, the lighting is awful. I'll tell you what, let me come around the passenger side to see whether that is any better. Not much better, I'm afraid. Sorry guys. Yeah, I am having to work with nature's light, so to speak. Yes, you got fabric seats as standard on this model. They're quite comfortable. They're quite spongy. I would say for me, I would want a little bit more support on the sides, because sometimes when I'm driving, I find my legs kind of want to flop open. So I would like a little bit more support for my kind of hips and thighs. But that may not be an issue for you watching. See, anyway, I was talking about the inside being a bit boring. Now, it's finished quite nicely, and you've got soft touch materials. And I know some of you moan about me talking about soft touch materials because some of you don't really care whether it's soft or hard, but anyway, I'm going to point it out anyway. So you get soft touches on the dash, which is quite nice. You get a leather gear knob and a leather steering wheel, which is all very nice, although I do find it a little bit annoying. Now this may sound very picky guys, but bear with me. So as I've mentioned, you get leather on the steering wheel and gear knob, but the handbrake is made of this hard, cheap, nasty feeling materials. I don't quite understand why you'd make that leather, but that not leather. I just don't quite understand it, and it doesn't feel very nice to hold. Yeah, I'm not a massive fan of that, but some of you may think that's an awfully picky thing to say. So let's move on. Now, you get quite a lot of standard, even though this isn't a high spec model. So you get a 7-inch touchscreen as standard. which has navigation. It's got DAB radio, Bluetooth and smartphone connectivity. In fact, let me boot it up so you can get a glimpse of it. Now, to begin with, it does look like the touchscreen is black and white, but it is colour. It's just the design. As you can see, you've got the sat nav there, and this is kind of your home page, your landing page, so to speak. So as I mentioned, you've got DAB radio, go onto the navigation, and I must say this is quite a good system. It's quite responsive, and it does work pretty well. Okay, the design is maybe a tad bland, but again, that is subjective. But yes, it works pretty well. So I've got no complaints with this system. Maybe just a bit more colour to it would be nice. Although I do quite like the font. There we are. You also get a reversing camera, which won't activate because the car isn't obviously turned on. The engine isn't turned on, but I will show you that in a few moments. There are a fair few buttons in here, but they are laid out nicely enough. The damping is nice. The buttons, they don't feel cheap. They've got a nice weight to them. You've got dual zone climate control as standard. You've probably spotted the heated seats, which is quite handy, although it is actually quite warm today in the UK. It's very pleasant indeed. So yeah, you've got the climate control, heated seats, and yeah, there are a few buttons, but they are laid out very well, as I've mentioned, and they are very easy to read and to use. For example, radio. It's obviously for radio. Media takes you to media. Nav takes you to the navigation. So it's very straightforward, which I quite like. You've also got a USB port in here where you can smart your phone. So where you can plug your smartphone in, and you've got not one but two 12-volt sockets, which is pretty handy. If we go down here, you've got a hill descent function. Although this isn't all-wheel drive, it's front-wheel drive, and that's obviously to turn the parking sensors off. Let me come around to the driver's side. Again, apologies for the iffy lighting. That noise is simply telling me that I've left the key in the ignition. There we are. So, let me boot the car up. There we are, and there's the rear view camera, which works well enough. Now, you get no fancy digital speedo in this car, although I'm sure many buyers won't really miss it, but you do get this little digital display in the middle there, which you can change the views. Obviously, at the moment, you can't really see much because the passenger door is open. In fact, let me reach across and close that. So yes, you've got a little digital display there, which is monochrome, so it's not colour, but it's absolutely fine. As you can see, I've been doing, well, I was doing 36.7, but because the engine is running and I'm sat here idling, the MPG is going down, of course. So you can change the views like so. I've got a button here. Come on, autofocus. There we are, I've got a button there where you can change the views. So you can have a compass, attention level for the driver alert, user settings, and then it takes you back to the driver information like so. I've also got cruise control, which you can see just there. That works very easily. I've got automatic wipers. There we are. Automatic lights. And as you would expect from a car like this, I've got front and rear electric windows for the driver's side. Sorry guys, because the lighting's a bit iffy, the autofocus isn't working quite as well as it normally does. Because I've also got the driver's window, which is one touch function, well, one push and one pull, I suppose. I've got lane departure warning as well, as you can see there. So needless to say, this has got a decent amount of kit. I think the equivalent Nissan Qashqai would cost you about £1,000 more, I believe, and it doesn't quite match the specification of this car. The equivalent Peugeot 3008, I think, is about £4 grand more, which is obviously a fair chunk of money. I think the equivalent Renault Kadjar is more expensive as well, but the Renault Kadjar I was looking at did come with a panoramic roof, whereas this doesn't, which is a pity, but hey, this car is not one of the higher spec models. Right, let's talk about practicality and space. Let me turn the engine off. We don't need it anymore. That jingle is not really needed. I do find that a little bit cheesy. The door bins are of a good size. Got a bottle holder in there and a little bit of space left over. Let's just put my stuff back in there like so. Got a little slot where you can put your smartphone or perhaps your wallet or some loose change or whatever small items you want to put in there. You've got a cubby hole in the middle, which has got an armrest on it, which is adjustable, like so. Obviously, doesn't quite work as well when you've got a bottle there, but yes, it is adjustable, which is handy. And you've got a decent amount of space inside. And as you've just seen, there's two cup holders in the middle, which are of different sizes. So in here, I've got a quite a large 750 milliliter bottle of water. There we are. That slides in nicely, but obviously it won't fit in there because, well, it's too big. But yes. And of course you do get a glove box, which is of an okay size. It's not massive. It's not quite as big as I was expecting, to be honest. But it doesn't help. You've got this rather thick manual taking up quite a lot of space in there. However, it should be big enough to put some snacks in there for a road trip or for whatever you may want to use it for. Right. Okie dokie. Before I move into the rear, let me talk about getting a good driving position, which is quite easy. The steering wheel adjusts for rake and reach like so. And my seat has also got a good level of adjustment. So yes, getting comfortable in this car, that is quite annoying. Getting comfortable in this car isn't too bad. It's pretty good for a driver. Right, so step into the back. As always, the driver's seat has been set for me. I am 6'2", so I am of course a taller person. Step in like so. And close the door. Marvellous. Right. So even though the seat has been adjusted for me, there we are. Let's pull you guys back. Just realised I've had this on Zoom for most of this video. Dull, never mind. So as you can see, I've got a good amount of knee room and also a good amount of leg room. Plus, I can fit my feet underneath the seat in front of me, which is quite handy, especially as I'm pretty sure I've got my driver's seat set to its lowest. So that is pretty good, of course. But how about headroom? Well, let me spin you guys around. Hello. So as you can see, I've got a decent amount of headroom. So taller people should be able to get comfortable in the back of the Sportage with very little issues. Now, you may be asking, can you fit 3 adults in here? Well, it may be a bit of a squeeze, but I think it is doable. Let me try and pan out and show you what the back width looks like. And that's my camera slider, don't mind that. Let me move it over a little bit. So yeah, okay, the middle seat isn't overly wide, but I think you could potentially fit 3 adults in here, but it may be a little bit of a squeeze. However, if you only have 2 occupants in the rear, they'll be able to make use of this armrest. There we are, and that's got 2 cup holders in it. Very handy indeed. And you've also got a 12-volt socket, so if someone in the back wants to charge their tablet, smartphone or other electrical device, they can do so, like so. And you've also got small door bins as well, which you can probably fit. I reckon should be able to fit a 500 milliliter bottle of water in there with very little issue. Right, let's have a look at the boot. Now, there's no automatic tailgate for this model because, like I said, it's one of the cheaper models. So as always, I've got my filming crap in there, but it gives you a good idea of how much space it has. More specifically, the boot offers 491 litres worth of space, which is larger than Nissan Qashqai, but it isn't the largest in class. However, I've got a fair few bits and bobs in there and plenty of space left over. You've also got a retractable luggage cover as well, like so, to obviously give your items a bit of privacy, so hopefully it will deter potential thieves. Now, if you want to get more space, you can of course fold down the 60/40 rear seats to give you 1,480 litres. The actual opening itself is quite nice and wide. The lip is pretty much minimal, so that's quite handy for when you want to load bigger or heavier items. And in case you are wondering, guys, this car doesn't come with a spare wheel. Instead, you get a puncture repair kit, which is just there. But to be honest, guys, not that many cars nowadays come standard with a spare wheel. You normally have to pay extra for it. Oh, the wind has just picked up. So yes, the boot is pretty practical, I think it's safe to say. Right, let's conclude by talking about the engine. Right, let me find the bonnet release. There we are. So there's a good choice of engines available for the Sportage. You have a 1.6 litre naturally aspirated petrol. You have a 1.6 litre turbocharged petrol. You have a 1.6 litre turbocharged diesel and a 2 litre diesel which has a mild hybrid. I've got the 1.6 naturally aspirated petrol, which kicks out 130 brake horsepower with, the torque is not very high. I believe it's 215 Newton meters, although I am doing that from memory. So if it is wrong, I will of course drop in a subtitle to correct myself. But yeah, it's not a very gutsy engine. Now, in regards to performance, it will hit 62 miles per hour in just over 11 seconds, or around 11 seconds, and the top speed is 112 miles per hour. So yeah, it's not really built for performance, and well, to be fair, it doesn't really need to be, because this is a family SUV. However, this engine is fine in and around town. However, on faster roads or motorways, you are very likely to notice the lack of performance. I have driven this on the motorway, and I have found I've needed to plan my overtakes in advance. So yeah, if you're looking for an SUV with a bit of oomph, well, if you're looking for a Sportage with a bit of oomph, I would urge you not to choose this engine. I would urge you to go for the 1.6 litre turbo. Now, in regards to economy, on a combined run, this engine, using the new WLTP method of testing, should offer around 34 mpg. But in my experience, actually I think it's 34.9 to be precise, but in my experience I've actually been getting around 40 mpg, which is pretty good. And in regards to emissions, well, this engine isn't particularly green, so it emits over 180 grams per kilometre of CO2, meaning for the first year of VED you will be required to pay £830. Ouch, that's not very good at all. Let's have one last look at the Kia Sportage. A very handsome car, if you ask me. There will of course be a full review coming. That should be available to watch in a few days. For those of you wondering, there won't be a Patsy Rates Cars video with this car, because Patsy isn't feeling particularly great at the moment. And plus, to be honest, I am a bit short on time. Anyway, speaking of time, I think it's time for me to wrap up and to finish. So as always, thank you so much for watching this video, guys. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, please do give it a massive thumbs up. If you are subscribed, don't forget to click that bell icon so you get notified every time I make a video. And if you aren't subscribed, guys, what are you waiting for? Be sure to subscribe. Tongue-tied. Be sure to subscribe for more car obsession.